Hey, good afternoon, everyone joining from the Central European area, and dependent from where you are, I guess good morning or good evening, even if you're from the Asian part of the world. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Ross Paterson. I'm the CEO of WoodWing. And you might notice that I'm a bit overly excited because, in all honesty, people, this is my first webinar that I'm hosting, and it's also the first live webinar that I'm hosting today. So I've been really looking forward to this. At the same time, I'm also hoping that this doesn't end up on some channel of the funniest home videos. I guess this is live, so we'll see how it goes. But today we're talking about future-proofing the operations of media companies and publishers. And I think a very relevant topic, also seeing everything that has been happening in the world just recently. Joining me is Serge Dillier from AUNF. He's co-owner and head of applications at AUNF. Welcome, Serge.
Thank you very much, Ross. It's great to be here.
Look. Nice. I'm actually excited that you're here as well. So I guess most of the people know, but AUNF works with amongst other publishing and media companies on a day-to-day basis, working with the teams to streamline their workflows and be a technology partner for them. So I guess on this topic, Serge is even more informed on how things are actually on the operation side of our customer than I am. And also AUNF did one of our largest migrations to the cloud that we've ever done within WoodWing. So also there, plenty experience with Serge and the rest of the team. So really happy that you're here with me today, Serge, in this live webinar. So we have an hour to all the people that are joining. We are going to basically structure this discussion into three parts. First, we'd like to talk about what are the business challenges that media companies and publishers are facing today. From there, we will look at what are then the requirements for kind of your technology in general to help you overcome some of these business challenges. And the third and more final part of the talking will be about, hey, what is WoodWing doing and how are we further supporting our customers to be successful in the future. Now, as you all know, this is a Q&A webinar. So the risk is if only Serge and I am talking on this webinar, that it kind of stays a little bit high level and it stays there. So we do invite you to post any questions that you have while we're discussing stuff in the chat. So I will check the chat regularly for questions. And I'm also inviting all of you to make it more specific and ask very specific questions. So Serge and I can do the best that all of you get the most value out of this webinar. We'll also leave plenty of room at the end, right? So we'll be talking about each section around 10 to 12 minutes. And then afterwards, there is this larger Q&A section that we have that we can also have the time and the room to really discuss and go into some of the questions that you have a little bit deeper. We'll also, before I move on and dive into the first topic, I just also want you to be aware that you'll see live polls come across the screen. So we do invite you. We have 3 polls on the 3 topics that we have today. So I do invite you also to respond to the poll so that we can see if there's any interesting insights coming from that. So that is all, team, for my introduction. Let's dive right into the first topic, which are the business challenges that media companies and publishers are facing today. And Serge, if you allow me to kind of share some of the challenges that I see, then I'll hand over to you, Serge, to share any challenges that you also see that I potentially have missed. Let me first of all say that not specific to media and publishing companies, I would say it's a challenge for anyone leading a business like myself, leading WoodWing, but also Serge, Philip, and Stefan leading the AUNF organization, that I believe the world has never seen as much uncertainty today in this decade as we've ever seen in history, right? And I'm not even talking about the pandemic, right? That is already 5 years ago. But even if we look after that, wars have broken out, right? Driving up energy prices, driving up paper prices. We've seen the highest inflation rates recently that we've seen for quite a long time. We also see in elections people getting the power and making some very controversial remarks in media that also add to the uncertainty that we all have in running our businesses. I also believe that the world is being more and more digital, but that also means that there is for criminals an opportunity, right? There's a lot of hacking going around. Earlier this week, even I think on Monday, it came out that a large hosting of technology company called Centric in the Netherlands has been hacked and held for ransomware. So it's just awful to see that. And we also have obviously AI, and you always see if you have a webinar that you talk about this, that I believe yesterday DeepSeek came out, right? So a new AI technology that is already disrupting kind of open AI from the USA. So we're disrupting technologies that have not even existed for a couple of years. So I guess my point is that it's very tough in those uncertain times. And if you look even specificer to publishers and media companies, add on top of everything that I said up to now, even kind of finding your way to engage with your readers on new digital personalized channels and also making money out of print. So I believe, especially in the media companies and publishing segment, that uncertainty gives on the one hand opportunities, but also a lot of risks. So I would say that's one of the biggest business challenges that we're all facing today. What would you say, Serge, from your opinion? You're visiting customers, I guess, on a daily basis, right? What would you say are the biggest business challenges that these companies are facing?
Yeah, I think you summarized it very well. So the world is changing. The world is changing a lot and very fast. Yeah, I'm still young, let's say, but I still say it's getting faster. Let's say new challenges come up every day, but also the existing challenges getting bigger faster. I think we are all aware of the challenges that are on the market, but they grow way faster than we expected them to grow. So yeah, new technologies getting on the market, you mentioned it, and also communication gets faster, which is super important for our customers. So communication gets faster, has also positive and negative effects. So we get the information very fast, but also fake news go all over the world very fast. So it's a big challenge. And all these challenges need to be handled by the media industry. And yeah, let's say it's very, very tough. And on the other hand, we have challenges that we handled already before, like the customers are not willing to pay the same price or to buy the same amount of newspapers and magazines, which is super challenging. And they still want the same information. They still want the same quality of information, but in less time and not in different publications, but only on one hand. And this puts a big pressure on the publishers. On one hand, on the margin, and on the other hand, they need to be very efficient. So they need to provide the same quality or even the better quality in a different channel, and they need to be the best in it to still stay on the market. And I think that's really super challenging.
Yeah, I can even just to touch upon a couple of things, right? If I even look at my own behavior as someone that consumes content, right? I guess, and that's where also the opportunity lies. I'm absolutely willing to pay for content, right? So I pay my local newspaper so that I can get coverage of local news, right? That I enjoy reading. But I also have my hobbies, like in sports, and especially I'm a soccer fan, right? So I pay for a premium subscription with one of the soccer magazines out here in the Netherlands, and I do love the fact that they also offer me videos, right, that I can listen to on my own time. I have a long commute, right? So I still believe that if you find your readers, right, wherever they are, if that's in a car on their commute, right, via video or via audio podcast, that there's still willingness to pay for premium content. And I guess there's also an opportunity there, Serge.
Definitely is. It definitely is. But I think you mentioned it, new channels like podcast, whatever. It still goes in the topic of digital transformation, which is nothing new. We talk about it for many years, but this means also you need to integrate new solutions, new services like AI, video, we just talked about. And what does it mean to the customers and publishers? Additional costs, but and what does it mean on the other hand? You just need to get new business cases. You cannot use the same business cases as before, because otherwise it just means you get the same amount of money or even less, but don't get as, or you need to provide more than this. That's challenging for them.
Yeah, so I guess the challenge that you also are articulating now is they actually need to be active. The publishers need to be active on more channels, right, to reach their audience. But at the same time, they have to do it for the same or even for less cost than that they were able to spend in the past.
Yeah, but that's definitely the case, or they just need to rethink things. I think that's the point. Or as mentioned, need to be more efficient in providing what they already did, to be ready or have the time to provide the new things and the more special things, let's say.
Okay. Hey, I touched upon AI, right? How do you value AI for media companies and publishers? Do you see that an opportunity or is it a threat, Serge? I guess that's the multi-million-dollar question, right? If you have the answer to that.
And you cannot answer it right. So that's the challenge with it. So of course, I'm 100% sure AI will influence the media industry a lot, but in a different way, and maybe, and also positive and negative as everywhere. So we all know you need to use AI in the future, otherwise it will be even more challenging. But maybe the publishers need to use it in a different way than you would first expect it. So usually I think everyone talks about ChatGPT, just creating text, reviewing text, create ideas, creating pictures, and all these things. That's nice to have, but I think that's not the most important thing for the publisher. They need to get better in specific things like the layout automation to create print faster, have automations and AI to provide new channels in a more efficient way, or in an efficient way that we did not know before, because it was always a lot of effort needed to provide, for example, the print channel. But maybe there will be a new channel in the future, and we just get the data provided by AI. On the other hand, I think there are a lot of opportunities for these customers, because we have a lot of quality information and specialized information in their data. So this means they could create something like an AI for which is where you know where the source is, which is a big problem in AI, for example. And then you have qualified resources from media houses, as an example, which would definitely make sense. On the other hand, that's the negative part of it. Many years already, the publishing houses talk with Google, Meta, and all this technology, when there's that they have the challenge that the customers don't even go to their web pages anymore, because they get information already by searching for something. But by then it was only like a title and a subtitle, maybe a little summary. And now it's even worse. They're getting the whole data most of the time, and also the information that is there. And I think that's the challenge they have. But I don't want to say it's negative or positive in general. I think it's always, you need to use the newest technology to stay on the market and to get better products to the company. So to stop my sentence with something positive, I think AI will create a lot of new revenue models, like modern advertising, personalization, and getting more efficient, and that helps the publisher in general.
Yep, Thanks for that. And if I combine kind of the essence of what you just said, right, on how to adopt AI with also seeing what all the participants of today's webinar think, right? They actually, there's a live poll, right, on what the biggest challenges is in media and publishing, and by far declining print revenues and shifting to digital seems to be the biggest challenge that the participants see today, right? So just let's dig into that because apparently that is the most important part here, Serge, right? I think what you just said with AI, and we'll probably get to talk about using AI for layout automation will help for sure in making the print business line more profitable, right? If to kind of offset the declining revenues with also more efficient workflows. But if you look at shifting to digital, right? I talked a little bit earlier about my behavior. I'm convinced, right, that out there everyone is willing to pay for premium content, right? And again, whether that is news or sports or what have you. What is your opinion on finding digital or reader revenue on the digital channels? What do you feel publishers need to do best in order to get that?
I think they need to get, or they need to be very agile in the future, because there will always be new channels, and which means they need to publish something there in any way it will be. And as you mentioned, you want to have it personalized. You want to know more about, in your example, sports, and then you always need to be the best in that part, in that segment. And then maybe for sports, it's video as an example, because we want to review things. And in other topics, if you're in music, then maybe it's a podcast or whatever it is. And you need to be very fast there and need to have a solution that can adjust to the need you have by then.
Yeah, and if I would add to that, right, but again, this is very much resonating from me as a reader, right? I think this is also a challenge for the marketing departments at media companies and publishers, right? Because you need to find kind of your target audience, right? Whether they're, in my case, right, let me use my examples, whether they're soccer fans, right? What this particular app and publishing company does to me that I find attractive, they don't just report on a soccer match, but they actually show the tactical master pieces that the trainers did. And that really gets me going, right? So I like to watch a soccer match, but I'm also very interested on when does a trainer intervene, apply a substitution, and then change his tactics. And what this particular publisher does, right, is they have experts come on webinars. They have already a written report on the tactics like an hour after the match finish. And the next day they have a podcast with professional trainers coming in. And so I feel even, right, and I shouldn't say this too loud, but if they would double the revenue, I would still pay for it, Serge, right? Because I'm so impressed. And I think finding that, and of course, there's also other examples that I guess all the participants on this call I have already also read, but doing events, right? So I also am a runner, right? Personally, I like to run, but also there are planning events that bring runners together through the app, right? And it's an event where they bring in a professional coach. So you're basically talking about building a community, building a relationship. And I know it's probably a very open door, but I feel that this particular publisher for whom I'm a customer for does this really, really well, right? And then you can see, I think they can even charge a little bit more than they're doing today. So I guess that is also the big challenge for the marketing departments at publishers, to kind of really find and articulate your target audience and understand how you serve them, what context. Serge, I suggest that we move on to the next topic, right? And it will be immediately my question to you, right? If we agree that the world and the business challenge is all about uncertainty, uncertainty has opportunities, uncertainty has threats. What do these companies need to organize in their IT infrastructure to cope with that business challenge?
I think the technology needs to be ready for that, to be that agile or that flexible as mentioned. So this means the existing workflow and solutions need to be efficient and fast, and need to support on one hand the current channels and all these things that you currently do, but they also need to save you the time that you need for maybe something new is coming out tomorrow. You mentioned it. DeepSeek is growing from one day to the other. So what does it mean to us now? We should already checking, are there possibilities to implement that as an example, just like that. And the system needs to support that in the future even more.
Yep, I remember when I was a student in university, right? I think one of the trends back then was organizations, and we got taught this in theory, right? Organizations should be very agile, right? That you can react to market circumstances quite quickly. However, I guess I'm leading an organization now, and I feel that capability, right? And even for our customers, it's so important to be agile in your workflows, and of course that means also in your infrastructure. And I know we'll probably touch upon this a little bit later, but I believe that you see a lot of our customers moving from owning all the IT, right, and paying perpetual license fees, owning it, get everything arranged, have people do your infrastructure. It limits them, right, rather than when you have a subscription, right, to a certain technology that, and I know it's not always as easy as I say it is, but that you can stop that subscription, right, and move over to another technology that suits your new business needs, and that can help you to get to that opportunity, or that can help you to mitigate that risk that you see. So I do agree with you that this agility, that's a word that I've been hearing for 20 years. I think if there's a time that this is relevant, based on what we said in the first 10 minutes of this webinar, I think the time is now for our customers. And although I wouldn't like it, right, I'm the CEO of WoodWing, I want everyone to stay on WoodWing, but I do understand that our customers need to lower their switching costs if they want to move to a competitor of WoodWing. I understand that they are organizing their business practices to be able to do that, because I think that's a capability any company needs in nowadays business. So I will never repeat this out loud when I'm in public, but I do. And we're doing this as WoodWing as well, right? We are looking at some of our key technologies, and we want to have them as subscriptions, so that if anything changes in our business, which for sure it will, that we don't have IT limit us from those opportunity. But so Serge, if I would ask you, right, you visit customers, you've done a lot of implementation, you've done not only WoodWing implementation, a lot of other technologies that AONS supports. What is the key for you, right, in terms of what are you looking for in your IT infrastructure to help to embed that agility in those workflows?
I would say there are like 3 ingredients to do so, let's say, more or less. So one of the most important things is to have a stable and performant system. So because it doesn't help you if you just have a system where you always need to fix something, then you cannot move on. You just mentioned you need time, you need effort to maintain a current system. And if you do so, you will not have that, let's say, additional 20% to do new things. So you need to be sure the system is stable and performing. On the other hand, the second ingredient would be to have an open system that has rich APIs, which means you can connect easily new things. That's especially for myself and A&F super important as an integrator. We need to be able to connect whatever is needed for our customer to fulfill the business needs. And on the third point, it's on, let's say, cloud, but even more SaaS. And if I talk about SaaS, I always say the most important thing about SaaS is the last S, the service, because that makes the big difference. That's really the time saver, because just moving to cloud, it's just a different place for the same things, doing the same things. But to have a service behind it, that's really the important part.
Okay, 3 ingredients. And before I go into your 3 ingredients, let me just appoint everyone that's participating, right? There is a chat function. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in, right? We'll save some time also at the end of the chat that Serge and I are having to fill them in. So please feel free to add any questions or remarks to the chat. So 3 ingredients, Serge, right? Stable and performant, you mentioned, and you mentioned this open system, APIs. I actually looked up, it's an application programming interface, right? For all the non-techies joining this call, it allows you to communicate with your system. And you said SaaS, but typically the last S. Could you help me kind of better understand why you think these 3 ingredients would make the AONF customers more successful? What is it that make these 3 ingredients so important nowadays?
Yeah, if we talk about stability and performance, I can say we with NF have been implementing systems for over 40 years and doing 24/7 support, which is not always easy, but a big discussion is always performance. And so it means it's super important. But the challenge is always what does it mean? What's performant? So when is the system fast? When is it slow? It's the definition of each person, and I think that's the challenge. So we need to talk together, to define together what's performant, and then as soon you have defined it as a target, the good thing, if it's your system internally, you always need to be the one that makes sure that the performance is there. But if you have it in a SaaS environment, then you can challenge the vendor, the partner. Just, hey, this is what we have defined as fast. This is the definition of fast for us as a partner. Let's go for that and challenge that. I think that's a big thing. I would also lie if I would say there are no performance issues in SaaS or cloud or in a good solution. I think you yourself also remember it, Ross, when we many years ago for SZ6 had a lot of performance issues, and we just needed to fix it, right?
Oh, don't bring me back to that time, right? I know that. I sometimes see some pictures that I'm getting gray as time evolves being the CEO, but absolutely that period where we had performance issues with assets, that is really awful period to be in. That's where I got some gray areas. At the end, we managed to fix it, but I guess also nowadays, Serge, right, and why I echo that stability and performance remains important. You need user adoption, right? Users hate the system if it doesn't perform or if it's unstable, right? So I guess you also need that if you would be responsible for the IT on behalf of one of our customers, you need that to also have high user adoption.
Definitely.
How about the APIs, and why is that so important, Serge?
As mentioned, for me as an integrator, it's one of the most important ones, of course, but it also is connected to adopt new services, new solutions. It's only possible if you have an open API, and we always used to say with WoodWing, you have that best of breed way of doing it. So you always connect the best systems for doing something, because you will never have a system that can do everything in the best way. You will always need to connect things, but to do so, you still need to have a system that supports with a general workflow that is strong and stable to go through all these things. On the other hand, I also need to say for our customers, that's the most challenging part to move to the cloud, because that makes the difference. Each of our customers has different solutions that are integrated in their WoodWing environment, and that's kind of a challenge. But that's also what you have been talking about in Amsterdam and Experience, that there are so many different solutions and services around integrations, hundreds, thousands of it, which makes it very hard to support and to maintain, and to go back to the first point, to make the system stable and performant. And that's a big story, and we still see it as a mission to build such integrations in the future, because it's key. But we need to generalize these things more and make it available on a centralized way. So don't we have 20 times the same thing developed by different developers?
Yeah. I guess when you have a lot of integration, it also it's I guess an enemy of agility, right? If you on the one hand want to be agile and you have a lot of these integrations that are holding you back, I guess that is the risk of if you go crazy on building all types of integrations on API level. But I do agree with your point, right? And I would say let's move over this because I think it's already quite common in the market with so many SaaS technologies coming out. Having APIs that you're able to leverage the latest and the greatest does make sense. I'll talk also a little bit later on how we as WoodWing are investing on that part. But let's move over to SaaS, or should I say services, Serge, right? As an important ingredient for the customers.
Yeah, let's do so. So of course it's clear most of the vendors anyway move into a SaaS model. So as a customer also, you need to move into that direction too. Makes sense and helps you to get new innovations way quicker. I don't need to go through all the official marketing points that we know about SaaS. I think that's what we all know. But I think that one of the important parts is really innovation that comes to you quicker, and that you are able to outsource IT services, because we talked about it before. You need to be more agile. You need to have time somehow. And how do you save time if you move some services out to the vendor, as an example? And I think also for small and medium houses, it's super interesting to have a SaaS service, because often they don't have the knowledge internally. They don't have enough manpower to do so. So they need to get that from somewhere anyway. And if you have that in one solution connected with your system, that helps a lot.
I agree, and I think for me it also goes hand in hand with the agility, right? I said this before. I am convinced that if customers are willing to take the step in a kind of outsourcing their infrastructure for certain solution to the software vendor, and that being on the cloud, I believe it's a win-win, right? It makes customers more agile. It should be easier for them to switch over because you don't have this upfront investment, right, for a certain amount of user, but you can flex also the amount of users with your usage needs. We see more and more customers, as of some of the challenges we spoke about earlier, Serge, close off more publication titles, right? So that means also you need less users on your editorial system. And having that flexibility to do that, having that agility to do it, I believe cloud is not so much a goal as itself, but it's an enabler for our customers to do that. And if I were outsourcing software like we also do, right, or buying it as a subscription of a cloud, I am very worried about the services, right? What if something fails? What if we want to build an integration? So I agree, and I guess this is also where the value add of AUNF as an organization steps in, right? I need someone that understands the setup that we have, right? That if there is a issue, that I can call you and you guys help me, and that I have a party that can help me configure the system in the right way. So I actually agree how you emphasize the last S in SaaS, because if you don't have that, it can be a very costly and less agile solution, I guess.
And I think it goes even further, because if you need that service also, we talk about connecting many different surrounding systems, third-party systems. A goal should be to also have the support for all these things on a central station. That's why it's always super interesting for us as a partner to say, or as an integrator to say, hey, we will support the surrounding systems too. Because that's the other side of this part, that if you have an open system, you connect different systems and you need support for all of them. And what's happening if there's one system that is great but is not SaaS yet, then someone needs to jump into the middle, and that's exactly what we are looking for and what we like to do.
Nice. Hey, before we move over to the final section, let me have a look at the poll, right? And the poll was about what is the biggest concern in adopting cloud technology. And I guess not a surprise, but the biggest concern is the complexity of migrating our existing setup, right? I guess, Serge, that's also maybe some participants on the call that have built quite a large amount of integrations and where the technology is embedded in their workflow. So to think of, hey, how do I move this over while all the integration? So I guess that's also where, a concern I understand, but I think also a concern that A&F also was able to mitigate, right, with some of the migrations that you already have done. So I think it's worth a conversation with our customers to show what tooling and how we can support these customers to move from a self-hosted on-prem setup to the benefits of a cloud setup. Anything else you want to? And I guess the other one is here, security, right? 21%. And I can imagine if some of these also even cloud vendors are American companies, right? And what's happening lately, I guess I can imagine that feeds a concern of customers.
Yeah, I think to see even more about complexity of migration. I think that is getting better and better and will get better. As mentioned before, if we merge more things together and generalize more things and try to remove the complexity, so that we really say, hey, this tooling was just made for this dedicated use case, but let's think it wider. Let's think it new and say, how can it be used for other things that maybe other customers have? Let's work together and collaborate for these basic things sometimes, and then just focus on these special things you want to have in your special market. And then the challenge is not as big as it seems at the very beginning. And you mentioned it, it's all about communication, chatting together, find solutions, and in the end, they will be happy. We saw it with several customers.
Yep. Let's move over, Serge, I guess, to the final section where we've talked about the business challenges. We've talked about what requirements does that need from your IT infrastructure setup. But also let's talk about WoodWing for a bit, right? Because I guess I mentioned this already during the Uncovered event, right? We had an Uncovered event in Amsterdam, and we also did one in Sydney, Australia, where I publicly announced that we are investing in the cloud. And the reasons, I guess some of the reasons are obvious coming out of this dialogue that we're having is really we feel that we're helping our customer to make sure we increase our feature velocity on the cloud and be able to offer it as a service to our customers. And to me, WoodWing investing in the cloud, I'm not just talking about product development, right? I'm also talking about moving into more customer success, right? Trying to invest in monitoring on our cloud, making sure that our logs are up to date. We earlier in this conversation, Serge, we're talking about reference the Elvis, back in the day, Asset 6 called Elvis issues that we had, and also the limited logs, right? So we've invested big time in monitoring on our cloud, making sure the logs are always available, that allow us to get to a root cause and either switch our practice from a more reactive support to more proactive, right? To see what is the behavior that some customers, the users of our customers have on the cloud, how are they using the system, all that data can help us build a more performant and reliable system. So that is one of the things that we are continuously investing on, and that if I would name a couple, but I'm also happy, Serge, if you're specifically interested in any of them, or participants, right? If you want to use the chat, if you want me to elaborate specifically on certain topics. But first of all, WoodWing Connect. WoodWing Connect is the name we give to kind of our API capabilities, but also the capabilities to make it easier and easier for our customers and partners, right, to be able to create integrations I believe the days that customers are willing to pay for upgrades, right, is behind us, and that we should be able to have a toolbox and where you can more efficiently build integrations. So that's something we're investing on. WoodWing Connect. We're also releasing the new version of Assets 6, right? It's called Assets 10, which is created for the last 5-6 years already in the background to really be eventually, I should say, a substitute for Asset 6, but now a more cloud native one. So it has a more performant and stable behavior on the cloud, but also the velocity that we can get with innovation there is much higher. So again, we're also doing that to help our customers with the latest and the greatest of technology. And then also we talked about AI, Serge, right? So we as WoodWing, and I'm really excited. This is one of the things within WoodWing that really energizes me, is we're really working together with customers and partners to work on a AI solution for layout automation, right? We talked about one of the challenges, and also the participants in this call emphasized that the declining print revenues and finding new digital ways is a key business challenge. So we are looking at how with AI and layout automation, we can increase the margins on print so that these marketing teams at the customer side can really also focus on creating those new communities. So working together with some of our larger publishing customers on a solution, to me, Serge, I don't know how you feel about this, but it's also something we need, right, in an era of a lot of uncertainty, because WoodWing by itself doesn't have the knowledge to create groundbreaking innovations, right? I think a partner by itself, like ANF, cannot do that by itself. I truly believe in this triangle, right, where a customer works together with our development teams, together with ANF or any other partner, to really put all the experience and knowledge together to find ways on how we can support our customers overcome these business challenges. And I believe this project that I'm referencing I'm mostly excited about, of course, the outcome is belong, right? But on the process, how we're getting to the outcome, to really work together. I do believe that that is something that I want to commit to more personally, to really make sure that we get those conversations going with some of our key customers and partners. What do you think about that notion, Serge, right? What is your experience in solving complex challenges that you've seen with customers over time?
I think you mentioned it very well. My experience is that WoodWing got way better and much more experience in these things, and that's great, because we had a different start when we talked about it some years ago, when we have been like the first customers moving to the cloud, and now the experience is really like, yeah, there are clear steps to go there. We have clear connections and people behind it to talk to and to define solutions. And I think what also influence, or what would be interesting to also to everyone to know how you see it, that it influences that whole process, is the newest acquisition of Concord. What does this mean to the customers and the partners?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Serge. Right, so we announced the Concord acquisition. Was it early in January, right? And one of the ambitions, there's multiple reasons why we did it, right? So let me explain. One of the ambitions that I've always had as the CEO of WoodWing, right, working together with great partners like yourself, like Concord, but we have many more across the world, that I felt some of the integration and some of the solutions that have been built are deployed locally, right, to individual customers or maybe a group of customers. I've always had this notion of creating a WoodWing marketplace, right, where we bring, I don't know, an integration that works very well for our customer base in Switzerland, built by ANF. How can I make sure that our customers in the USA benefit from the technical coding that has already been done and the solution that it provides to them in their workflows? think we've never been really successful in the past 3-4 years, and I felt also coming out of our Uncovered event, Serge, where I talked about that triangle. I feel if I want to make that work, I need to take more responsibility as WoodWing to create that marketplace. So one of the reasons for this is I was quite impressed with some of the integrations that Concord built, and I believe these can be of value to our customers globally, in the US, in Asia. So I'm going to take next steps in creating this marketplace now with Concord being part of WoodWing. That's one reason. Another reason is actually mentioned, funnily enough, by our participants in this webinar, right? When we asked earlier about what is the biggest concern, we saw the complexity surge of moving customers, right, from on-premise to cloud. I believe we were lacking that capability, right? The project management capability, the understanding of how our technology actually is used at the customer side. So now by acquiring 60 professionals of Concord, we now have that capability to better handhold our customer in that migration journey and take them along with all the right skill sets. So I believe I also have that responsibility to our customers, right, to give a seamless migration to our cloud. So I believe having the capabilities of Concord as part of WoodWing absolutely helps with that. And that so these are the two, I would say, main drivers for us. So it's not so much about us wanting to resell direct to customers. It's more getting these capabilities as we want to migrate over more customers to our cloud, because that is where we are investing. And I would like our partners and our customers to also invest on that same environment so that we're all aligned. So bringing over customers to our cloud is going to be a priority, together with showing new innovations, partly through AI, but also partly through listening to our customers. We can do that way quicker on a cloud environment. And I believe, again, that is also what more and more customers will be demanding for us. So if I look at the poll right now, Serge, it's a final poll, right? Are you planning to adopt cloud technologies? There's a handful of people that are planning it within the short time, right? So and I can echo that, right? We're seeing quite a strong pipeline in customers that are willing to take on the migration to our cloud. Some of them are still, I guess, most of the participants on this webinar here today are considering it, but having no timelines yet, right? I guess it's part of their roadmap on how they want to evolve their IT infrastructure, which I get, right? It is something that you absolutely need to plan for. At the same time, Serge, can I invite you, right? I think you've done a couple of migrations. You've done the largest implementation on our cloud. Are there any best practices that you have coming from that experience that you want to share to the participants here today?
I think it's good to see that many of them are considering but have no timeline, because that's always a good start. Worst case is you already have the timeline, but you don't know how to do it. So I think that's exactly the right timing. So it's time to talk about what are the challenges, what are the concerns, what are the things you need to have in the future, what are the things you don't need anymore. And so you can calculate it, and also can plan a timing for it, or say, hey, it is how it is, I will stay on premise. Could be a way. It's not a preferred way, but in any way, you know how to go there, and you can time it internally. So I think I see this very positive, especially as we mentioned and talked about the integrations. Let's talk about it. What's there? What's needed? How can it be handled? And what's already cloud ready now? Because you will see more things are cloud ready so far than it had been like 1 year ago, for example. That's so. I think it's the right time to just start a conversation and see where it goes.
Yeah, and I would say, right, for everyone that is considering it, I think as soon as you start considering it, reach out to A&F, right, or any of the other partners, because to be able to share your thoughts, concerns, opportunities assumptions with someone that has the experience to have migrated customers from on-premise, I think adds a lot of value early in your thinking that can only help you to get to collect all the information you need, right, to make the right decision. I must say, participants, there's not any questions in the chat. Oh, there's actually one coming up now. With so many technologies emerging, how can media companies prioritize which innovations to adopt first? It's a relatively generic question. Serge, you want to start formulating your view on how?
Yeah,
to
let's see if you
prioritize?
see it different. But let's say follow the money. See where is the most important business case, and if this case can be needs some plugin or development, or it's just based on the standard functionalities. But I think that's the most important part, because then you always will get budget to do so if you follow the money and see which business case is the most important one for the company now, but maybe also what could be the future business case with AI, with all these things we talked about, and then prioritize it connected to this. Of course, also A&F and WoodWing can help on this, because we also have the knowledge on what are the highest priorities to other customers. And of course, there are different customers, but the market is the same, and most of the time also the business case is very similar.
Yeah, and I follow you on. So what I will add to what you said, Serge, right? If I were on a leadership team of one of a media company or a publisher, right, I would really look into how do you engage with your readers, right? Because at the end of the day, that drives advertising revenue, that drives subscription revenue, right? With what content do you want to stand out with your target audience? And so I would look at my technology stack to see what innovation actually services that need, right? How can I better get to my audience? Because at the end of the day, and this is what also the participants were quite clear about, right? That is the biggest challenge still, right? On how to fill the hole of declining print revenues with new digital models and digital opportunities. So I can imagine that would also absolutely drive the priority in innovation. Hey, with a couple of minutes left, I just see one more question coming in. Let's take that. You mentioned the WoodWing Connect possibilities. Can you elaborate on what we can expect from ready-made integrations as a customer? So yeah, good question, right? So what can you expect as a customer? We are increasingly working together with our partners, like I mentioned earlier, right, to see what are the integrations that partners have already built and how can we make that available on our cloud for our customers through WoodWing Connect. So basically, the first starting point is selecting all the great integrations that our customers are already using to, I don't know, either automate their workflow or make their workflows more efficient. And we want to make that available for WoodWing through WoodWing Connect. That's one. Second of all is, I believe, and Serge, it might be also curious to hear your thoughts on this, right? I believe that although integrations can be really powerful, it still requires a lot of technical capabilities to be able to build it, right? One of the trends we are seeing is the notion of iPaaS platform, right? Integration platform as a service that actually have the philosophy of it should be way easier to build integration. So WoodWing Connect also sits on top of one of the highest values iPaaS platforms out there. So we also have this ambition to be able to make the ability to build integrations easier also for less technical people, right? So if you're a business analyst, that you're able through quite easy, and technology is actually quite enhanced in this piece, and it's actually enhancing quite quickly, and I'm quite impressed with these iPaaS platforms. So with WoodWing Connect, we're also bringing that in the hands of our partners and customers so that it's easier and more efficient to build integration, which is so important if you follow a best of breed approach. How do you feel about, I would say, the maturity, Serge, right, and the ability for customers to benefit from integration? It sometimes still feels a bit difficult and very technical. What's your view on that?
Yeah, but I think with WoodWing Connect, it's still technical, but it gets more visible for them and easier, I would say in general. So yeah, as mentioned, to connect any service or any ideas or new features to that are externally always need that integration. And with WoodWing Connect, I think that the big benefit is that you just have the integrations to WoodWing, so we just connect it with whatever else is on the marketplace there, and that's a super interesting point. So not to have in general the integrations currently, the ones that you already have, the big ones, let's say, but to easily connect also just small services like translation or whatever in a very easy way via a GUI, and that's super interface, super interface. Yeah, super interesting to have that interface.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, I told all the participants at the start, right, this is my first live webinar, but apparently if I press this button, I can put the answers of the last poll on the screen. So again, this was the question about, are you planning to adopt cloud technologies? We're considering it, but have no timeline, is the biggest answer. Again, I would encourage all of you that answer that, right, to reach out to your partner and discuss, because it feels to me very comfortable if WoodWing, its partners and their customers are aligned on where the investments and the priority is going, and for WoodWing and its partners, that is to the cloud, right? Because that is where more and more customers are also challenging us to show more innovation on the cloud. So for our customers to also really consider this kind of within the next 1 to 2 years is going to be important for all of us to be aligned on receiving the latest and the greatest. We have like a minute left. I'm going to try to very quickly create a recap for everyone. This webinar was about future-proofing media companies and publishing, right? Where we saw that by far the biggest challenge in that industry is still to move from declining print revenues into finding more new digital revenue, right? And all of that happening in an uncertain world where uncertainty brings opportunities and also it brings risks. We've heard Serge talk about, right, the 3 successful ingredients that you need from your technology in order to really embed that agility and to support your business leaders in making sure that they can dive on an opportunity or they can mitigate a risk if needed. And that is all about the stability and the performance, because you need your users to adopt it. It's all about still having rich APIs that you can create automations based on your workflows. And it's also about considering SaaS and not only look at the cloud capabilities of your vendor, but find a partner, that's someone that can offer you actually the services around the cloud technology. I think that is my conclusion. Serge, anything to add from your end before we let all the people go and close off this webinar?
I just can say I'm looking forward to everything that comes onto the market, jumps off the market again. I think that's why we are working in IT, because it's agile in theory already and also in general, and to have these day-by-day challenges to solve is what we are looking for, and why we love this job. So I'm looking forward to have further conversations and further transfers into cloud.
Thanks, Serge, and thanks so much for also making the time to join me on this Q&A webinar. We hope, dear participants, that we also made it relevant enough for all of you and you had some value out of this. If you have any further questions or any feedback on this webinar, feel free to reach out to myself or Serge or to one of the members of our teams. We'll look forward to kind of hearing your feedback, but also any follow-up questions that you might have got from this webinar. Thanks so much for joining, and looking forward to seeing you in one of our next webinar episodes. It's bye from me for now.
Bye, everyone.